It's Katie Crysdale here from Lakeview Aquatic Consultants. Welcome back to the channel, or welcome if you're here for the first time. Each week, I take some time to talk about what's been happening in the aquatic industry in terms of news, special events, legal precedents. That's what we're going to be talking about today, is everything I included in the July 15th, 2026 newsletter. The newsletter is linked in the description box down below. I don't read the newsletter start to finish. I do provide context and commentary why I included what I included. Please do consider subscribing to the YouTube channel or the newsletter. Each week on Wednesday, I try and share what's been happening and why I think you should care about it. This week, I did have an opinion piece I wanted to share, and it is going to be a bit of a different take as we are approaching International Lifeguard Appreciation Day at the end of July. So I think that there is good reason to have appreciation days for different professionals, whether it is administrative professionals, doctors, uh, teachers, anything like that. And so there's no reason not to have an International Lifeguard Appreciation Day in July. That's fine. What I think is the problem is a lot of aquatic facilities, recreation facilities, even places like camps or youth organizations, we are too focused on saying thank you on one particular date or during one particular time of the year. So I see this happen a lot at Christmas, even for people who don't celebrate Christmas. It's the end of the calendar year. So a lot of organizations place all their emphasis on thanking staff in December. Summer organizations, outdoor pools, outdoor water parks may do this in the summer at the end of the season, so late July or August. And there's nothing wrong with that, I want to be clear, but it has been my experience that it's very, very helpful and very, very effective to do on the spot recognition. And the only way you can do that successfully is to set yourself up for success by having a batch of thank you cards or having a batch of gift cards or having a stash of snacks or treats. I'm not talking about ordering swag for your staff. Swag is very important. It's a recognition item that can be treasured and valued in an aquatic workplace or any workplace. But let's be honest, swag is really expensive when it's done correctly. If you're getting just cheap swag, which is not monogrammed or not high quality, it's going to break or the staff aren't going to use it. They're going to throw it out. It's junk. I get a lot of free stuff that I'm offered that I decline at trade shows or events or from suppliers because I just don't need a 17th water bottle, or I don't need a really itchy and scratchy wristband, or not a high quality lanyard. And so obviously, I didn't realize my newsletter ended up being all about food. I talk about taking snacks to colleagues, snacks to clients, snacks to aquatic facilities. But honestly, when we're summer and it's a heat wave, snacks, drinks, ice cream, popsicles is definitely one of the ways I think, in addition to thank you cards or individual recognition for a job well done, I genuinely feel that on the spot recognition is the way to go for most organizations. I know that's not always scalable if you have a team of 70 or 700. There does have to be some planning in terms of writing those cards or notes in advance. There does have to be planning in terms of having shift coverage or operational coverage or even just enough food or resources for everyone to participate. But I did really want to highlight in this newsletter, and I share quite a few examples of how you can do this on the job in terms of an ice cream sundae bar, queso bar, ramen bar, snacks, things like that. These are just ideas for you to launch from that I think on the job recognition in the moment when it's most necessary, when it's stressful at work, everybody's busy, that's when it matters most, in my personal opinion, rather than just one specific date or party or event that everybody is glomming onto this year. International Lifeguard Recognition Day is relatively new. It was invented in 2020 by Jeff Ellis and Associates, which is a lifeguard agency out of the US. No tea, no shade. Anybody can invent an appreciation day and have it registered, and it's a good idea. But I do think that there are limitations on a specific time frame because then people feel like, well, maybe we don't matter if we're not recognized on a specific date, when that date may not be prudent for one organization or one location. I know here in Canada, we have the August long weekend, Simcoe Day or Heritage Day, depending on the province you're located. And July 31st is, 30th is pretty close to that long weekend, which would be difficult to cover if that was something that you adopted at your Canadian aquatic facility. So have a look in the newsletter if you're looking for more specifics about how to do some of these very inexpensive off-the-cuff recognition. I'm a huge fan of going to the grocery store for food. Does not need to be takeout or delivery. I know that, seems easier, but it's a lot more expensive. The same way I often tell people on a budget, go to Home Depot, go to Lowe's, go to your local garden center and get a living plant or living flower of cut flowers, because you can get a lot more. You can stretch your money a lot better with those types of gifts rather than just cut flowers. Although Costco, I have a Costco in my town that's very easy to get to, and the cut flowers at Costco are tremendous. You can get 2 dozen roses for $25.99. You could easily split those up and rewrap them. But in general, I think anything you can do in the moment is going to be appreciated by the staff more than a specific event or dollar value or a specific idea. People are just fine eating store brand ice cream with hot fudge sundae sauce and, marshmallows and cherries. You don't have to make it super complicated. Also, make sure that you're including all of your team. So the focus of this newsletter appears to be on lifeguards, but keep in mind that there are many other people at your aquatic facility who keep it running: cleaners, maintenance people, pool operators, customer service attendants, towel attendants, security staff. Anyone should feel that they are part of the aquatic team if they help to keep your facility running. The second part of the newsletter, each week, we talk about the news that is happening. This week, the list is relatively short because last week I did send out the newsletter 2 days late. And so we have a briefer list of what's been happening because it's only been, let's say, 4 or 5 days of news. One of the big ones I did want to point out is that the Model Aquatic Health Code has come out with cold water venue guidance. I still have a video in queue to be edited regarding Alberta Health Services cold plunge guidance, so that will be coming up as well. But this Model Aquatic Health Code guidance is also, it's non-binding, it's non-regulatory, but I know at my NSF committee, we are definitely talking about it as something to be aware of, while there is an absence of scientific research that we can draw upon. We have a couple of pools this week where broken glass has been an issue in Iowa and Minneapolis. This is honestly an issue all year round, but especially in the summer when people are likely to pack a picnic, corn chips and salsa at the pool, or as I said, if you're getting maraschino cherries in a jar for that ice cream sundae bar, watch out for the glass. Glass has a funny way of sneaking its way onto pool decks all the time. It's not that bathers are trying to break the rules. They literally don't notice a Snapple bottle drink or some sort of juice in a bottle or some sort of glass bottle that they brought from home. Mason jar culture, right? Taking your own coffee cup from your home. Pyrex or glass containers, anchor hawking, they're not supposed to shatter, but they can shatter. All of that is easy ways for glass to end up in the pool, which is a quick early end to outdoor pool season because you're going to have to drain, and not everybody has the time or the budget to refill at this point in the summer. There has been a number of issues with diarrhea and sickness around the United States associated with salad, fruits, and certain vegetables. Whether that's being transmitted through water or whether that is associated with what people are eating is something that is rapidly developing over the last couple of days. So do use some caution in your community, whether you need to be educating users about, reinforcing education about abstaining from using the pool due to flu-like symptoms, or even reiterating in your social media content, hey, if you've had food poisoning recently or suspect that you've been ill based on something you ate, please also refrain from using the pool because of the fecal matter that could be left on your body that is transmittable to other swimmers. I'm late to this story, but I've started listening into accounts of Nolan Wells, who is a young man, 18 years old, who went out on July 4th with his friends to a barrier island in Mississippi. They were going to have a boat day. The body of Nolan Wells was found, I believe, the next day in that area, but there have been a lot of questions from his family about what happened. There's allegations that data on his phone has been deleted, like messages and photos. There have been reports that the friends that he went out boating with left him behind on the island, that he would not have had a means to leave. There are reports about, where was his phone during this time? Why was there a delay in reporting him missing? So I don't want to get too speculative. We don't have a lot of facts. It's still very early on, but it is a very sad story, similar to another case I've linked to in the newsletter from April, where some teens have been charged with tampering with the phone, like the technology, the evidence in that case where a teen drowned while they were out as a group. So I think as aquatic professionals, we always think about water safety in the basin sense, in the pool sense, whether it's indoors or outdoors. And I think water safety culture also needs to be part of our conversation when it comes to boating. We don't want to be the fun police, but we do need to make sure that we're educating our families, our colleagues, even our staff sometimes who are young and maybe motivated to make poor decisions under peer pressure on a day off, about what are some of these risks when we get into an open water environment where we're not as confident as a swimmer. They shared an article from North Texas where a man was found deceased, drowned in a pool where there is 24 access a day, 7 days a week permitted by residents with a fob, like a digital access pass, which is concerning. There's a movement in New York to expand access to adaptive swim lessons for autistic children who are more likely to drown. And the funding model would be providing support from Medicare. This is in the very early stages of legislation. It's simply a bill that's been introduced. So we'll wait and see where it goes from there, because I've seen a lot of bills over the years that I've been reading aquatic industry news every day. They're proposed and then they die in the legislative process at many different points because they're tied together with other bills, or there's not enough support, or there's not enough funding. So I will be very curious to see. This is a unique precedent that I haven't seen anywhere else. I shared kind of a unique article from the New York Times associated with these luxury snow rooms that are now being built for some luxury fitness locations, private residences. I have heard of these snow rooms on some high-end cruise ships, but I have not seen one myself. I live in Canada. We have snow from October to April. I'm not sure I need to pay to have snow in a room, but I see where the attraction would be. And as we've discussed repeatedly over the last year, the huge explosion of contrast therapy, hot and cold, so hot tub followed by cold plunge. I've also seen a huge increase in demand for cryotherapy services, which may not be regulated in all jurisdictions. So it is not a step too far to see that these snow rooms are now coming up into conversation as well in certain types of higher end facilities. I shared two different articles this week that may not be as obvious, but they are definitely adjacent to aquatics and recreation operations. The first one is from I would call her not a fitness influencer, but a fitness industry analyst. She lives in California. Her blog and social media channels are called Sweats in the City. Her name is Dale. I've only been following her for a few weeks, but what drew me to her recently was a post associated with the question, very legitimate in my opinion: if you spend $50 for a fitness class at a boutique fitness studio, should you be having to wipe down your own equipment? And I think this service model is something that I have been contemplating, not just in boutique fitness. I've done hot yoga, spin, and other things for a long time, But also, I think adjacent to aquatics and recreation in general, we need to start thinking about what services do we offer, because often there is no service that we are offering. Aquatic professionals may think that simply having the pool open with lifeguards and safe water quality is enough. And I'm not saying that it isn't, and I'm not saying we should be delivering a luxury experience on a municipal budget, but I do think this question of service and what's included or what should be provided is something that needs more discussion. So I don't have the answer today, but this is something that definitely caught my attention and something I want to kind of continue to think about and discuss over the next couple of months. The city of Calgary recently announced the closure of Village Square in the Northeast for over a year. And so part of that renovation and life cycle management is going to be replacing the exterior facing water slide. I really hope they bring that water slide indoors because it has been known to freeze repeatedly because of the low temperatures we receive in Calgary throughout the winter. It's cool to have that peekaboo water slide, but I'm not sure, in my opinion, that Calgary is the best place for it. Again, given those winter weather conditions that we have from October to April, it causes freezing, it causes challenges with use and inspection. So I'll be curious to see what the updated water slide is going to look like and whether it is going to be entirely indoors. The city of Pittsburgh has been having a conversation regarding a new escort policy. So, escort in terms of like adult supervision, which they're not calling a chaperone policy, but they are saying that people under the age of 15 need to be accompanied by somebody 21 years of age or older. I don't know the background on that, but there has been a lot of rage bait this summer from non aquatic professionals commenting that they feel that this is excessive when if you've had issues with teen takeovers or you've had issues with absent supervision, this is not surprising. It is the natural result of policies not being followed or supported to a certain point. Lastly, this week, a bit of an odd choice, some of you might think. I shared this account of a Ford worker who was fired over a cookie theft. And again, you might think, like, what is this? This has got nothing to do with aquatics, but it is adjacent to management principles and supervision principles. And I do try and share a little bit from a management perspective, like issues and topics we should be aware of without being too heavy handed, because I know most people are getting their leadership and professional development information from books, from LinkedIn, from professional workshops. However, I did read this story and I just was thinking, like, I can't believe this happened, but it happened. And how can we learn from it? So definitely read the whole article. But to give you the short version, a man who had been working on the line in the Ford factory in his area, I believe it was Kentucky, for a long period of time, like 15, 20 years. He works the overnight shift from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. And around 3 o'clock in the morning, he had a report from his diabetes sensor, so an implanted diabetes sensor, that he had a low blood sugar. And this is supported by the data that you can export from one of these sensors. My husband has one of these sensors you can see right on your phone, and you can set alarms to go off when you bottom out at a certain place or when you peak with a certain high. So he then goes to the staff area and he purchases a cookie from a vending machine. The first time that he swipes his card, it doesn't work. So he then goes to another vending machine and swipes his card and pays $1.75 or $2 for this cookie. He eats the cookie, his blood sugar goes up. And then over the next couple of weeks, there is a concern that the cookie wasn't paid for. He provides certain proof in the form of bank statements of the transaction where he paid for the cookie, but there's layers I'll let you read in the article where this is not believed or it's not supported, and they end up firing the man over this cookie. And he gets another job closer to home. He moves on with his life, and then a month or two later, they realize that there was a mistake and they offer him his job back. The level, it's just like firing someone over a $2 cookie. There was no other performance management issues up to this point on his record, on his file. Firing someone over a $2 cookie that he purchased because of low blood sugar is just so unbelievable to me. But I think the takeaway for me from a staffing perspective is I thought, how focused are we in aquatics on being able to treat diabetic emergencies in our customers, in our bathers? We have the juice box or the sugar packets or the hard candies or the emergency granola bar. But how often do we check up, not in a creepy way, but in a supportive way, on our employees who are diabetic? Yes, they're adults. They should be responsible for managing their blood sugar. But I know from knowing several diabetics in my life, when you're newly diagnosed or you're new to medication, you're changing your lifestyle, it takes you a while to figure out what you need to do, how many carbs you can ingest, how much insulin to take, what factor does physical fitness have in terms of negating some of that sugar? How does your body respond? And it is common to have lows until you have that figured out. And so this man did the responsible thing. He bought a cookie so he could continue to work. He didn't, call in sick to work or leave the line. And he provided documentation. He paid for the cookie and he was terminated. There was so many opportunities for this to have gone a different way. Not an aquatic facility, but definitely an incident I thought we should be aware of in terms of sometimes we need to see the overall forest for the individual tree that we are trained on. I also shared the newest vlog I posted on our YouTube channel. This was the World Water Park Association reunion party, Typhoon Lagoon at night, which was really fun to film and edit. I've never been to a water park at night for an event like this, so I hope you enjoy watching that video. Next up on the YouTube channel, kind of what I have in queue to be edited right now, I have a conversation with Kate Connell from Equitable Aquatics. We're talking about AI in aquatics, AI technology use. That's going to be a great conversation. And then I also have a much delayed vlog of IAPA Expo last year, including the water park day and social. And then I'll be diving back into some other content that I've been filming regarding, there's always a mixture of aquatic interviews, discussions, as well as a lot more National Lifeguard content, as well as I do have some backlogged cruise content I'll be posting, as well as Royal Caribbean's Nassau Beach Club. I appreciate you being here and following along. If you have any questions or comments about this week's newsletter, this week's episode, please feel free to pop them in the comments below. I'm happy to make this a conversation. I read every comment that I get. Thanks so much for watching. I will see you next week, and bye for now.